أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد. Tonight's lesson, inshallah Azza wa Jal, is going to be in brief about treating illnesses in Islam. Illness, sickness, problems, issues, etc. that a person may face, how to go about it. Obviously, we're not going to go into extreme detail on every single point, but inshallah Azza wa Jal, we just use it as a general means and a general guide for us to be able to further our research later on, inshallah Azza wa Jal. طيب. A few introductory points, and then inshallah Azza wa Jal, we'll get to some specific remedies for some specific problems. When we speak about illnesses, we need to look at it from a holistic perspective. An illness, a sickness is not just something that affects the body. Islamically speaking, the first thing that an illness affects is a person's faith, a person's iman. Then, after that, a person's mind. Then, after that, a person's body. These three things are very important in order for us to understand illnesses, sicknesses, problems, issues from a holistic perspective, so that we're not falling into problems. Because if we look at the majority of the world today, either those who live in the West or those who understand a Western understanding of health and reality today, then they usually limit a lot of things to the physical well-being of the body. The physical well-being of the body. If the person looks good, then that's fine. And that's where the emphasis is. Now there's a big shift back in the Western world, obviously, to that which is towards the mind, the mental health of a person, the mental well-being of a person. And even a lot of people are moving into things because they've seen that the physical realm only is not enough for happiness. So they are moving to that which is more spiritual. Some have adopted things like Buddhism and the like, in order to get some sort of spirituality out of their very materialistic worlds. The most important part of the human being is his soul, is his ruh. To the extent that if the ruh is not there, then the person is not alive. When does a person pass away? When his ruh is taken up permanently. A person may live with a sick heart, he may live with a sick body, but a person cannot live without a ruh. You may have limbs missing and it's fine, you can still live. But once that ruh is out permanently, khalas, a person has their life. And this is the main thing, this is the main component of the human being. And if that's not looked after, then a person has problems. That's his faith. Then the mental well-being, because a person's mental well-being will affect his physical health. And then at the end of that, a person's physical health, and we'll touch upon each of them inshallah Azza wa Jal. Islam has maqasid. Islam has things that it came to protect. And these are 5. And these are things that should be memorized. The 5 things that Islam came to protect. Actually, anyone know before I give the answer? Anyone know the 5? But Sheikh, you obviously can't answer, yeah? We've been through this before. Anyone know the 5 things that Islam came to preserve? Almost every single ruling in Islam will revolve around these 5 things.
Health, your life. Honor.
Life is one of them. Honor is one of them. What? Shirk. No. There's came to protect something else, but the opposite of shirk. Not exactly in that word. Deen. Deen. So we've got deen, life, honor. What else?
Mind.
The mind.
Body.
That's part of life.
The heart.
That's part of life. Good. Wealth. Okay? So the 5 things in order. Number 1 is the deen. This is number 1 thing. The deen came to protect the deen first and foremost. And that's why people will be sacrificed for the religion. Like in jihad, for example. Jihad is there to protect the religion, to promote the religion, to strengthen the religion. So people can be sacrificed for it. The first thing to uphold is the religion itself. Then after that is life. Then after that is life. For a person to not die or lead to something that will cause death unnecessarily or unjustly. Then you have al-aql, a person's mind. Islam came to prevent anything that will cause disruption or problems to this mind. This is one of the reasons that alcohol is prohibited. Because it intoxicates the person, it makes his mind not be able to operate 100% and he makes many silly mistakes. After that, a person's wealth, a person's honor. A person's honor, meaning Islam prohibited things that discredit a person or humiliate a person or cause disunity in the community and problems like zina, fornication. Islam prohibited that. Okay, in order to protect a person's honor. And finally, a person's wealth. Finally, a person's wealth. This is why things like stealing is haram. Ripping people off is haram. Cheating people is haram. Okay, why? Because in Islam, wealth is protected. All of these 5 things, you will find the majority of the rulings will fit under the serving of one of these purposes. The religion, the body, in life, the mind. These 3 you'll find very close. The religion and life, there's no discussion about. The other 3, you can change the order. No issue, inshallah. Okay, in terms of importance, you can change the order in general, but the first 3 are very important. You have the religion always first and foremost, then you've got the life and mind. Life is holistic. That's why it's given first, because it's holistic. It's about killing a person. Now, and then mind can be something causing deficiency. That's why it's in third. And then you have honor and wealth after that. So Islam is very holistic in its approach to understanding how to protect things, how to look after things, how it wants to preserve things, and how to keep away harm. And this is another big issue that we're going to, inshallah, discuss today. How modern Western philosophy, it says it wants to protect certain things, but it doesn't put things in place to prevent it from being harmed. It doesn't put things in place to prevent it from being harmed. And this, inshallah, is going to be a big focus on what we speak about today. Another matter from the introductory points is that a lot of the fiqh matters of halal and haram comes under these matters to look after a person's individual health or religion and the like. And a lot of people, they have a problem with some of these matters because they're new things. So everything that comes new, we're going to take it back to the Sharia. Some people will say something like, is there a specific text in the Quran or Sunnah that says this is haram? In the Quran and Sunnah, you might not have that it's haram specifically. Why? Because it's a new matter. There are things today that went around at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, or that went in the place where the Prophet ﷺ was. That how do we know the ruling of it? We know the ruling of it by applying principles that make us know this next to something else that was in the Sharia, is it allowed or not? And I've heard people say things like weed. Why is weed haram? Show me where in the Quran and Sunnah it says that marijuana is haram. You're not going to find a text in the Quran or Sunnah that says marijuana is haram. Why? Because there was no marijuana in the place where the Prophet ﷺ was. So what do the ulama do? They look back at that which is like, it's called qiyas. This is part of usul al-fiqh. If a person wants to be a alim, you have to be strong in usul al-fiqh to know how to extract rulings. This is called qiyas. They look back and they say, what is like marijuana in the time of the Prophet ﷺ that the Sharia spoke about? They look at the reality of marijuana, they look at its pros, they look at its cons, etc., etc., etc. And then they say, okay, this is something that is an intoxicant. It is like alcohol. It causes problems for the mind. Not only that, then you have masalih and mafasid. They say this matter, even without qiyas, this is a matter in which its harms outweigh its good. Its harms outweigh its good. So it takes the ruling of being haram. This marijuana is one example. You can apply that to any other example that you think of today. A lot of people, they think, why do the ulama say this is haram? Why do the ulama say that it's haram? Why isn't this allowed in Islam? If the Sharia didn't directly speak about it, the rulings of new matters are taken from the Sharia itself. But you need to have the ability to know how to extract the rulings and how to find something that it is like this matter to do qiyas of. Now, again, this is why the ulama come up with certain rulings, and this is important. Why? Because it will affect a lot of matters to do with health. Whether it's the health of your faith, the health of your physical self, or the health of your mind. Sometimes you don't understand the ruling, have your trust in the ulama. The famous statement in English is also an Islamic one, that prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. Be very careful of being fooled by the shaitan. When it comes to matters of your faith and matters of your mind, the shaitan fools a lot of people into thinking that right now they are okay. A lot of things which we'll mention, inshallah azza wa jal, a lot of people, they get to a point in their life where they think, oh, life is fine. I'm doing what the Sheikh said don't do. I'm doing what Islam said don't do, and my life is okay. I'm happy, I'm healthy, my mind is fine, my life is fine, everything is fine. And this is called istidraj. This is called istidraj. Yani a person walking themselves into a trap. They think everything is fine, everything is fine, everything is fine, and then out of nowhere, a person's life can literally be flipped upside down, where everything goes off the rails. A person goes into extremely weak iman, or ayadhan billah, worse than that, in hypocrisy or kufr, ayadhan billah. Or it could be a person, his mental health seems okay now, but then it goes off the rails and he goes into severe depression, where he can't leave his house because of not only depression, but the amount of anxiety he has, as an example. Or it could be with physical health. The thing with physical health is the majority of people, they understand a lot of the dangers. Why? Because again, we grow up in a society where there's a lot of focus and emphasis on physical health. The way that you look, what you eat, nutrition, etc. So in this particular field, there isn't as much problems, even though we'll talk about it inshallah azza wa jal, but the main focus on the first two we want inshallah. And again, prevention is better than cure in all of these things. When do people usually go and see someone? When it's too late. It's usually too late. Not in the sense that they'll never get cured or never get fixed, but it's too late as in, it's such a problem for them now, it's such a heavy burden on them that they don't have the fight in them or the will to overcome the issue. So take the advice before you fall into problems. And if you're on a path that is leading to issues, don't think yourself safe, don't think yourself okay. Don't be complacent in the matter. Be very careful that you don't fall into issues. Now, and that's by ensuring that you are doing the things that prevent this before you fall into it and then need to look for a cure. There's different types of cures in Islam. We're going to go through some of them and inshallah azza wa jal discuss what they're used for, how they're used, and also what they're used to combat. Now, the first thing is the purely Islamic matters. The purely Islamic matters. When we say purely Islamic, we're talking about things like the Quran, etc., where there is no necessarily any physical thing that you take or physical thing that you oil on your body or something that you extract from the earth, etc. This is something purely Islamic. This matter is something very believable. Why? Because this is the most important of matters. This is the most important of matters. When you understand that Allah Azza wa Jalla is a shafi, you understand that Allah is a shafi, Allah is the one that cures. And you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed cure in these matters. And He taught you and He told you that they are cures. Then you understand, I should be doing it. I should be doing it. Not only that, is it gives you fortitude. It gives you fortitude. When you talk about, as we mentioned inshallah, something like a person's iman, a person's belief in al-qadr, a person's understanding of the need for patience, a person understanding the hereafter, a person understanding the matter of hasanat and sayyat, good deeds and bad deeds, etc. He understands that when I go through an affliction, there's a purpose behind it. There's a goal behind it. There's guidelines behind it. There's a way to go about it. When he understands these matters, this is going to help him through a lot of issues. But a person who doesn't have this understanding, doesn't have this belief, he's not going to have any fortitude whatsoever there. So his problem when he gets through is going to be extreme. Okay, so these are purely Islamic matters which we should pay a lot of attention to. Again, prevention is better than cure. Don't wait until you're in a problem and then try and claw yourself out of it. No, that's not how it works. Be strong so that if it does happen, it doesn't affect you as much. Another point regarding the Islamic matters is that a lot of people neglect, and this is because we live in an atheistic society now that doesn't take heed, doesn't pay attention to matters of the spiritual realm. In Islam, we need to understand as Muslims, the spiritual affects the physical. The spiritual affects the physical. Yani when you give in sadaqah and Allah places barakah in your wealth, you're giving of, for example, $50 on your bank account. Is that losing money or not losing money? Physically, you're losing money. Islamically, the barakah that goes into your wealth, is it an increase in your wealth or a decrease in your wealth? Islamically, it's an increase in your wealth. The only way you understand that is through iman. That's the only way you understand that. If you're not a non-Muslim and you don't believe in the spiritual realm, you don't believe in blessings, etc., you're going to say, why would I give that money? My wealth is going to go down. And that's why, unfortunately, numbers in terms of charity from non-Muslim countries are at the lowest they've ever been. Not the lowest they've ever been, but they are severely decreasing from previous years. Why? Because in times are tough, why would I give in sadaqah? I need to save. Now there's no point in me hoping, I need to look after myself. Especially when there's no belief in religion and the hereafter and an obligation to look after others, etc. Now, so a person needs to be very careful in not allowing Western concepts, which are many of the time based on matters of disbelief, affect his Islam. What are some of the Islamic cures that are there as a prevention, first and foremost, and then as a cure to certain issues? Your general iman, your general strength of faith. A person, his iman goes up how? Through the ibadah of Allah Azza wa Jal, through doing good deeds, and comes down how? Through sins. Okay? So if a person wants strong iman, he wants to have strong faith, in order for you to get there, your faith needs to be strong. Your iman needs to be strong. And the way to lose that, or the way to have weak iman, is to not do the act of worship, or worse than that, fall into sins. When you do that, again, automatically understand that you do not have the strength and the fortitude as someone else. Example, in your everyday life, okay, you're a very, very, very basic Muslim. Okay, you're a very, very, very basic Muslim. Do you need extremely high iman? Don't think of extreme examples. Yeah, just a person goes to work every day, sees his family, comes back home, etc. Does he need extremely high iman? He doesn't need extremely high iman. So he only is just on the edge. Okay, he's just on the edge. What happens when a calamity strikes that person? He crumbles. Why? Because he was just on the edge. He was just on the edge. And this is what Allah Azza wa refers to, those who worship Allah Azza wa ala harf. Those who worship Allah on the edge. They don't have strong iman. So they're basic, they're trotting along every day, they're fine. But when something afflicts them, they fall off. And they go into severe depression, or they start to doubt their religion, etc. And that's extremely problematic. As for those who have strong faith, when a calamity befalls them, they are able to respond correctly. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, la ilaha illallah. They understand they need to turn to Allah, fafirru ilallah, run to Allah or flee to Allah. They understand these matters. Okay, they understand these concepts. But a person who doesn't have that iman, they are going to fall and they are going to crumble, and this is very dangerous. Okay, if you can't understand it, on a iman basis, understand it, for example, financially. Someone is living week to week. He goes to work, he gets paid, he pays his rent, he pays his food, he pays his petrol, etc. Does he have a problem with week-to-week payments? He doesn't have a problem. When does the issue arise? Let's say, for example, Rajah is due. That's $1,000 that he wasn't expecting. Okay? He needs to see a specialist. That's $200-300 he wasn't expecting. Someone passes away in the family. They need to pay for the funeral. That's $5,000-6,000 that they weren't expecting. So from being able to live week by week, something big, something major happens, and they get into the hole very quickly. It becomes a big problem. As opposed to someone, let's say for example, mashallah, has got $50,000 in his bank account. That person, even if a calamity happens, yes, he has to spend from it, but it doesn't affect him much. He doesn't go any below what he has, or he doesn't go into an extreme state of need. Now, so a person, same thing with his iman, but more importantly, the stronger your iman is, the more you're able to deal with life's problems. That's why when the companions of Allah, when they went through a test, those with strong iman, when something would happen, Allah would say about them, this would strengthen their iman. If new verses came down about new rulings, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so hard. It increased them in iman, because it was more of an opportunity for them to do good. If enemies were coming to attack Islam, this is what Allah and His Messenger ﷺ promised us. We know this is going to happen. There isn't this questioning of why is this happening to me, etc. Now, for a person with strong iman is able to get out of these issues, alhamdulillah, nice and easily. Also, part of your iman is to have Islamic knowledge. Is to have Islamic knowledge. Why do things happen? And how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala test a person? And if a person knows the statement of Allah, you will not, did you think that you will enter Jannah, or do you think that you will enter Jannah without being tested? He understands the tests are part of life. When a person understands the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will not burden our soul more than He can handle. Just this verse by itself. Or this part of the verse. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden our soul more than He can handle. Doesn't that make things easier for you? Doesn't that make life easier for you? If you're tested with a death, or you're tested with poverty, or you're tested with sickness, or whatever the test may be, may Allah keep tests far away from us. Now, but if they happen, may Allah make us sincere and firm. If they were to happen, and you know that you can handle these tests, are you going to think of things like suicide? Are you going to think bad thoughts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That oh, Allah oppressed me, a'yadhu billah? No, why? Because you know Allah doesn't test you more than you can handle. You know Allah doesn't test you more than you can handle. You can get over the test. When you know that from the wisdom of tests is that you get your sins forgiven and you get rewarded by Allah if you're patient and your place in paradise goes up. When you know that fact, when you know that reality, don't you somewhat appreciate the test that you're going through? Maybe you haven't done enough good deeds, and there are many of us, we have not done enough good deeds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enters us into paradise or gives us higher rankings in paradise through the test that we go through. When you go through these tests, this is more of a reason to be patient. Why? Because you know that there's goodness in it for you, whether you see it with your physical eyes or you don't. You understand it through your faith. When a person, for example, understands matters of qadr, that you've been given choice. Yani you want to drink water, you want to drink apple juice, you want to drink LA ice, you drink what you want, you choose. You want to buy a car in the halal or in the haram, you choose. You want to sit in here or go play outside, you choose. A person has a choice. A person has a choice what he does, what he watches, etc. But then there are things in life, and this is part of your qadr. This is part of your belief in the qadr. There are things that you don't have a choice over. Yani you are driving and your tire popped, for example. You have a choice on how to react now. You need to understand because you believe in al-qadr. Ultimately it was good for you. Maybe, just maybe, that if you were to continue driving, you would have got into a major accident. You don't know. You don't know. Maybe you missed your plane. Maybe if you were to get onto that plane, it would have crashed and burnt. You would have died. Allahu a'lam. You don't know. So you try your best, but sometimes something doesn't go your way. So you accept it as the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second part of that, something that you can't handle, or something that is not in your control, is your understanding that Allah is testing you how you're going to react. You're driving and your tire popped. You have a choice to get out and you start swearing and going off and kicking your car and get sins. Or you have to say, Alhamdulillah, this is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what can I do? And you get your stuff out and you start changing your tire. And either way, the reality didn't change, but you either pass the test and got rewarded, or failed the test and possibly got sins. Where does that come about? How does that ease come about? Through your knowledge in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and how Islam works and what Islam told you about predestiny. So all of this is linked to Iman. Well, when it comes to your physical health, it has an effect. When it comes to the physical realm, your life in general, it has an effect. When it comes to your mental health, it has an effect. Okay, but without this Iman, you're not going to be able to easily understand how to go about these matters, and you're going to struggle a lot. And if we look at the Western world now, and it's spreading to other parts of the world because of globalism and people following in their footsteps, things like mental health issues is through the roof. Substance abuse is through the roof. Suicide is through the roof. These are issues that happen when there's no Iman. And if someone's going through hardship in their life, and they don't believe in Jannah, they don't believe in Jahannam, what should they stay alive for? I'm going through euthanasia. When a person kills themselves, or through the hospital they sick, so the hospital puts them down as if they're like going to the vet or something. Now they do it, they say humanely. Okay, it's a mercy for death. Why does a person have that willingness to kill themselves if their life is not perfect? Because to them, what's the point of staying alive? Why should I live in the hospital? Why should I live in a nursing home? Why should I live and I don't have the energy that I used to have before? For what reason? Khalas, I'll just die. There's no Jahannam. There's no Jahannam. So they're more than willing to get rid of that person. But as a Muslim, no, you know that this is part of the test. Sometimes a person may be in a coma, or they may be brain dead, and the doctors will ask the family, do you want us to keep the life support on or turn it off? In terms of the doctors, no offense to any of the doctors. Now we're talking about the bad doctors, not the good doctors. Now, in terms of the doctors, all of the time they're looking at it again from a purely metaphysical perspective. This person, what are we going to look after him for? They're in a coma. And if they wake up, they're going to be in a vegetative state. They're not going to be able to move, etc. Why do we need to look after this person for? It's just wasting time and resources. This is costing us tens of thousands, sometimes literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a day to look after. Let us turn the machine off and make our lives easy. From an Islamic perspective, someone might say, you know what? Wallah, it's true. I mean, they're going to be dead, they're going to be dead. They're going to be in their bed, they're going to be in their bed. Khalas, go. But what about you as a test? Again, your understanding. That may be your parent, your brother, your father, your sister, your cousin, your relative. It could be someone close to you, it could be a Muslim in the community that maybe we have a responsibility towards. The test is not just for them, but also you part of your faith to look after these people. To look after them. Allahu Alam, how many people after 10 years they wake up from a coma? Sometimes longer. And subhanAllah, things were fine. The point is that it's not just looked at from a physical perspective. This person, brain dead, khalas, kill him. Old, sick, kill him. No, what's the issue? We don't look at it like that from the Islamic perspective. Because we believe in a hereafter. We believe in a hereafter. We believe in communal responsibility. Unfortunately, those things, all of those concepts are not present in modern Western medicine or modern Western philosophy. And so you have a lot of these consequences and issues. Another, and not everything's going to be as long as that point, but these are very, very, very important points. The Islamic ones are very important. Why? Because they're so neglected. They're so neglected. People usually come, people know the Sheikh in 4 times. When do people know the Sheikh? When they want to get married, when they want to get divorced, when someone dies, and when they're possessed by jinn. Or they think that they're possessed by jinn. These are the 4 times someone knows the Sheikh. Besides these 4 times, unfortunately, the Sheikh in the masjid, what's the address? I don't know. Now, one that falls under possessed by jinn or shayateen is like extreme mental health issues. Now, a lot of the time they come, they don't pray. They barely fast Ramadan. They don't read Quran. They don't do any of this stuff. They don't do any of this stuff. Yeah? And then they say, okay, how do I get better? Okay, start doing that. And it's so hard for them. I know something that's so hard for them. Not because Allah made it hard, because they made it hard on themselves. Whenever you have problems in life, this lesson is going to go on for hours. Everyone got their sleeping bags? Anjad, you know what? Anjad, I think I'm turning into a series. La ilaha illallah. A lot of people, they cause themselves big issues. Okay, and from the biggest issues is that you don't have strong iman. When you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the further you are away from Allah azza wa jal, I want you to picture, I love individualization. Imagine now, you walk, it's raining outside, sah? Imagine you walk outside and you stepped in a bit of mud. Is it hard to get out of that little bit of mud? It's not hard to get out of that bit of mud. What happens when you're away from Allah azza wa jal? It's like you're shoveling a big hole and you continue to shovel. The further you are away from Allah, the more you dig in that hole. Let's say you're away from Allah 5, 10 years. How big is that hole going to be? Is it impossible to climb out of that hole? No, it's not impossible. It's not impossible to climb out of that hole. But how much harder is it than if you were never in the hole in the first place? This is the problem when a person's not religious. When they come to actually fix the problem, they're so far down in the hole that they look up, they're like, Allahu Akbar, I need to go up there. Khalas, I'm comfortable here. And this is a person that perpetuates the problem, keeps the problem present, and he knows, the person knows he's going to cause himself more issues, but he just says, khalas, like, I feel hopeless. There's no point in it. Now, so be very, very, very careful. Be very careful. All of the stories we have. From the other things that a person can do, this is very important, is istighfar. For a person to say astaghfirullah and ask Allah for repentance, Allah. Why? Ayman, you're not allowed to answer, Shaykh, you're not allowed to answer. Why is istighfar very important? Especially when it comes to a person's well-being, whether it's to do with his faith, his mental health, his physical health, etc. Yeah, good. That's a very, very, very good point. But what does that mean? So Allah forgives your sins, what does that mean? You become a better person, you're 50% right. Yeah, but why? Of course you can question Allah, but why does that help with the curement of problems and the fixing of problems? No, you just like, you're not even going around the circle, you're just like hoping that the circle goes around you. Undefeated. Huh? You regret it? You guys are talking about general iman. You're talking about the general strength of iman. Okay, but what else? Something else. And we mentioned it for those that were listening. This is general iman. Why else does istighfar help? Why is istighfar so important? Young man now. You know that it's been said like 4 times now? Yalla, one more chance. One of the elders. Al-Kibar, khalas, Al-Kibar. Why is istighfar important for health?
way it doesn't, your sins don't have to be removed by sending the
Jazakallahu khairan. Yani we said one of the reasons that a person may be getting tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a sickness or an illness or a hardship, maybe is to remove sins, correct? Maybe a person committed certain sins and Allah wants to remove them off that person. So when you do istighfar, what are you doing? You're asking Allah for forgiveness. What's happening to your sins? They are being removed. They are being removed. So what happens to that test? That test does not need to last as long. Why? Because let's just say instead of having 1,000 sins to be forgiven for, you only have, for example, 2,000 now. So you doing istighfar is wiping away these sins. Wiping away these sins. Now, on top of matters of iman, like you guys mentioned, the person's heart being black. And our reminder doesn't benefit, the Quran doesn't benefit, etc. Because his heart is sealed. When he's doing istighfar, he's removing the of him. He's removing the of him. He's getting that strong iman. So on top of the iman, which mashallah you mentioned very well, tabarakallah, you also have the physical. The physical, all the calamities that come about in life, where he is removing it from himself because he's already asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Another thing a person can do is ruqya. Ruqya, a person seeking healing through the Quran. This is not limited to when a person is possessed by jinn. Okay, it's not limited to when a person is possessed by jinn. Question. Can a person who's religious be possessed?
Yes.
Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illa Rabbi. You already answered. What's your name? Yazid, mashallah khairan. You already answered. You're very good. Tabarakallah.
What do you say? Is that like a sahar?
Like sahar, katiba, ayn,
Can a
everything.
person who's religious?
Religious.
Depending. What do you mean religious?
Like religious.
So he prays.
Yeah, he's religious.
Specify. Does he do his adhkar?
He does the afkar, he does everything.
No, because that
No, he won't.
اختلف العلماء. This is before the Mu'awwidhat came down, etc. In general, is it possible for a person to be afflicted by black magic and jinn and ayn, etc.? Is it possible? It's possible. But it's extremely hard. Okay, extremely hard. Okay, for a person to be afflicted. Right? And if they become afflicted, the treatment is extremely easy for it. Okay, in order to get afflicted is extremely hard. And in order for a person to get cured from it is extremely easy. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they've already got, again, that fortitude there. Imagine, for example, you've got a very strong building, like a very strong military base. Is it impossible to penetrate? No, it's not impossible to penetrate. Is it hard? Yes. Because of all the defense systems there, the defense mechanisms, etc., the weaponry, the soldiers, the spies that they have, it's very hard for you to get in and take over. Is it impossible? No. But it's very hard. But then, let's say you've got a strong army behind it. For a person, if they take it over, that camp, that headquarters, whatever it may be, is it extremely easy to get it back? Yes, it's extremely easy to get it back. Okay, because you've got strength that's besides that particular point. Anyone that does any ruqya, don't come to me if you should go to Sheikh Abdul Aziz. Anyone that's done any ruqya knows that when they do with someone, he doesn't pray, he doesn't fast, he doesn't read Quran, he doesn't do his afkar, they don't wear hijab, etc. Go do ruqya, wallah, it's hard. It's hard. And that's if the shayateen wants to come. Sometimes the person's happy the shayateen's in there. Because they get to blame their bad actions on the shayateen. Even though they're the shaitan. Now it's like they possess the shaitan. Anyway, that's a different story. This is like therapy for me. So sometimes a person, then you do ruqya, it's so hard. But then you have another person, they're religious. Another person, they're religious. But for example, maybe they slipped up in some matters and they did get affected by sihr or they were possessed by jinn for whatever reason, etc. Okay? When you go do ruqya on them, sometimes wallah 10-15 minutes, gone, jinn's out. So easy. So easy. Now why? Because they already have that fortification there. Think of it like an immune system. Okay, again, visualization, parables, it all helps. If a person's got a strong immune system, if an infection comes, the immune system is able to combat that infection quite easily and quickly. If a person doesn't have any immune system, what ends up happening? His body can't combat that infection. So there's big problems. Same thing with the protection in the first place. A person with strong immunity, he may be able to face so many problems, so many infections, doesn't really affect him. But a person with a very weak immune system, he may be affected by everything. Okay, that's why he can't even be around people properly. So the point is, be very, very, very careful. Okay, be very careful when it comes to understanding these matters. Your istighfar is going to help. Ruqya, even if it's for general sickness, you can still do ruqya. Okay, do ruqya for protection. And for those that have kids, also advise them. And you read Quran on your children. This is general protection. General protection. One of the companions, they came across one of the tribes, and they had been stung. It was poison. It was poison. They done ruqya, they read al-Fatiha, and that person was cured. Okay? So a person does cure through the Quran, and Allah called the Quran a cure. He called it shifa. Okay, so the Quran is a cure. Even if a person doesn't have it, doesn't have a problem that they know of, there's no issue in doing general ruqya on yourself. Dua, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asking Allah to keep you strong, to keep you healthy, to keep you preserved. One of the problems with human beings is our arrogance. We're very arrogant as a creation. And we think ourselves self-sufficient. This is one of the greatest problems that we have as human beings. That's why many of the disbelievers continue their disbelief. Istaghna, he's self-sufficient, he doesn't need Allah. He's got money, he's got health, he's got everything. What do I need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for? Why should I subjugate myself to the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal for what? Who's Allah? What has He done for me? What do I need Him? My wealth is from me. My health is from me. My safety is from me. My strength is from me. I don't need Allah. When they think like this, it's because they have it at that time until it's not there anymore. They don't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah made them rely on themselves for a second, their entire life would collapse. But Allah Azza wa Jal is Rahim and Allah is Halim. Allah Azza wa Jal is He's patient, He's Sabur. Allah is patient. He allows these things to go on, even with all the transgression. Allah allows it in this dunya until the hereafter. When the hereafter comes and they see the reality, that's when they'll regret. Now, but the Muslim, he doesn't think like that. The Muslim knows that he needs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every single moment of his life. How many times have we mentioned the dhikr of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Oh Allah, then allow me to rely upon myself, even the blink of an eye. Even the blink of an eye, then allow me to rely upon myself. Because the Muslim knows the control Allah Azza wa Jalla has over his life and how it's necessary. Now what's holding the earth up? The whole earth was just to collapse. Assalamu alaikum. Who would stop it? If the sun that we get used to every single day, if Allah took the sun away, what would happen to humanity? We'd all freeze to death, the vegetation's all gone. What would happen if the sun never went down and the night never came? You have a lot of very angry people walking around. Now you don't get proper sleep, etc. It's a big problem. It's a big issue. What would happen if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of the, like these little things that walk around, like for example these little spiders. What happens, for example, if they were made bigger? Now you look at it, okay, it's poisonous, it will kill me, but I can kill it because I'm bigger than it, alhamdulillah. So a little bit bigger, what would happen? Now, like these animals that Allah subjugated to us, and horses, cows, camels, these things are massive, but they'll listen to you, they're scared of you. How? I don't know. Allah hasn't made them like that. What if Allah changed that? The things, your organs that are in your own body, if they were to stop working or to have a problem, I always say, because it's so important, wallah, it's embarrassing, but it's, mashallah, me as a big man, like I'll take any of you, inshallah. Any one of you, no problem, inshallah, azza wa jal. When I had that kidney stone, 2 millimeters, it was a 2 millimeter kidney stone. Like 2 millimeters, when I found that out, I was embarrassed. Like I'm pain, I'm vomiting, I'm going in and out of consciousness, I've got no idea what the heck's going on. I'm thinking when they told me kidney stone, I'm thinking I've got like a boulder. Okay, when I done the x-ray and they said, yeah, we found like it was 2 millimeter kidney stone is passing through. What do you mean 2 millimeters? What about it? These big strong men on there like an ox of a man, tabarakallah. Now if I try to find out real easy, I'm getting straight in contract, faddal. I don't want to leave you guys. See how nice I am? 2 millimeters, you're on the floor in the hospital. How? Why? This is Allah looking after us. It's Allah looking after us. Imagine if we had to go for that every single day. What would happen to us? And who operates our body? The blood that you have, the oxygen that you take, the brain, the nerves, etc., etc., etc. Who gave you all of that? Who looks after it for you? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine you had to do that without the help of Allah Azza wa Jal. So you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you haven't memorized anything from the Quran or Sunnah. They ask Allah to keep your health there, to keep your sanity there, to protect you from misguidance, to protect you from that which takes you away from His path, to protect you from harm, etc. Your dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Final one, we're not even going to go for everything else. maybe we have to do a part 2 of this inshallah. The final one that we'll mention, because it's very important, is the adhkar. The adhkar that a person does. Every single person should have in their house the fortress of the Muslim, Husnul Muslim. Every single person should have this. There's adhkar to say what, if you're sick, if someone else is sick, what to say when you wake up, what to say in the morning and after Fajr, what to say in the evening and after Asr or Maghrib, what to say before you go to sleep. There are so many things that bring about protection. Bring about protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are cure. And the Prophet said, who says this will be cured. Who says that will be cured. You say this to someone, they'll be cured, etc. And you want to give yourself the best possible chance. This is how it's done through the adhkar. Why would I leave something that the Prophet gave me for something else? Or at bare minimum, use it together. Use what the Prophet said is going to cure, and also use things that Allah created from the matters of this world for cure. Now, so many things you say every single day, the Prophet promised you protection. But if you neglect that, what happens to the protection that you could have got? It's not there. So your immune system is not there, your defense systems aren't there, and it causes you issues. Now, every single person, I cannot emphasize enough, should be doing the adhkar in the morning, when they wake up, the adhkar after Fajr, the adhkar in the evening after Asr or Maghrib, the adhkar before they go to sleep. Every single person. And if you're sick, there's things that you can say to someone else that will bring about cure, and there's things that you can also say for yourself that will bring about cure. But don't neglect them. Don't neglect them. One of the main reasons I don't get involved in ruqya, unless it's someone very, very, very close. But one of the main reasons I don't open up the doors for ruqya is because I know people don't bother with it. This will take 15, maximum 20 minutes out of your day. Maximum 20 minutes out of your day for you to do. And it brings about so much goodness, so much barakah, so much khair. So much goodness in your life, 15, 20 minutes, and a person doesn't want to do it. Sometimes a person's possessed. Sometimes a person's possessed, or they've got sihr on them, or whatever it may be. And he says, "I'm going to do this." And he's like, alright, khair, inshallah. He'll do it for half a day. The next day, the day after, As-Salaam alaikum, sure you've been doing it? La, wallah, man. Brother, you're sick. Like, you're sick. Physically, you're sick. Spiritually, you're sick. Bloody mentally. Do it. There's promise in it of goodness, protection. Inshallah, man, daily. One of my, this is a long time ago, one of my friend's mothers, she called me up. As-Salaam alaikum, Nassim. He was such a good friend of yours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please, Allah Khali, come see him. He's got issues, him and his wife, etc. Alright, khair, inshallah. And you guys were so close now, inshallah, you're religious, come. So anyways, I go to the house. He's got major issues, his wife's got major issues, haram, their child has major issues. Like straight out, if you got big issues and you need ruqya, straight out. If I do ruqya, are you gonna start praying? Yes. He had a cigarette. Straight out now. Khair, inshallah. Jazakallah khairah. I got his mom, sorry, Haji. I'm not gonna bother. What's the point? Can you imagine now, there's someone, for example, in your house, and you go and you call your friends and they come and they bash the person and they spend time in Ma'arif Shul, they take the person out, and then the next day you just open up the door for him to come back again. Why am I going to waste my time? Khalas, jazakallah khairan, as-salamu alaykum, Allah ya'inkum, start praying, bye. Call me back after, inshallah. This is the reality that you do with. Okay, this is the reality that you do with. Sometimes a person, for example, they're in a particular job that's full of haram, they need to leave it, they have to leave it. That's from what you, just like you get to a doctor and they diagnose what's the issue, what's the causes, etc. Sometimes you might get to a sheikh who's got a bit of knowledge and experience in a matter, and they may say, Habibi, this is a big problem for you. Your haram wealth is calling you all of these major issues. They say, oh, sheikh, I'm not going to leave my job. Oh, jazakallah khairan, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, but can't you like do some Quran on me or something? Yeah, I can. But leave your job, and then it will work, inshallah. Nah, come on, sheikh. Okay, no problem, jazakallah khairan. They'll find someone else that will steal your money, no problem. Now, you got to understand that these afkar, these matters of deen, they are your number one protection against all of these problems. There are other matters which, again, maybe inshallah when we do a number 2, we'll mention some of them. Things, specific foods that the Prophet mentioned, physical things to do, medicine, even modern day medicine, cures for mental health. But inshallah Azza wa Jal, I know in Wollongong, 8:33 on a cold windy night, that's raining, is like 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, inshallah, Azza wa Jal, we'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, take them, and we'll save this for a part 2, inshallah. سبحانك وبحمدك أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.